This is quite the banner, guys. It really is. How the heck are you? I am Fastidious. Tomorrow we get a special Ancient Summoning banner for Pelagios, who I would say is one of the better Ancient exclusive non-Lord legendary heroes. That was a mouthful. And then we get Torodor, who is not Ancient exclusive, and I would almost never advise you to pull your Ancients for a non-Ancient exclusive Lord. However, by far, right now, where the game is at, where the meta is at, Torodor is the best normal legendary lord in the game. When I say normal, I mean accessible from your rare summoning crystals and your legendary divine summoning crystals, not just your ancients. Of course, he's also available from your ancients, and he is on 15x ancient rate up alongside Pelagios. If you did not know, I have a website, fastidious.gg. You can see our tier list. Let me actually just go to all right now instead of just Nightmare Council. I've recently updated the tier list since my video with Slate. You guys can check that out. We both gave our rankings for every single legendary lord in the game. And on that, we both agreed, and I had already come to the conclusion and updated the website, but we agreed Torodor is triple S now. I only give the triple S distinction to 5 non-lords and 5 lords in the game, 10 heroes total, and Torodor is in that class among the very best. The Valderons, Silases, Praetuses, Yovars, Ingrids, Hotsits, Elwins, Doloresi, and Ardia. That is how good Torodor is. That is how important his Lord skill is. That is how actually good his kit has become as we started needing defense break, which he basically has permanently against bosses, and things like a pretty tanky unit who's also a badass Lord. He is phenomenal now. This whole thing, though, as good as he is, comes with a huge caveat about the fact that we know an Ancient exclusive Nightmare Lord is coming soon. That being said, a bird in the hand, 2 in the bush, that kind of thing. Torodor's here right now. He's coming on raid up tomorrow. I know you can get him from rares. I know you can get him from divines. But if you're like me, I'm 15,500 summons with my normal summons in this game, and I've never gotten Torodor. So it actually is appealing, especially when you consider the fact that he's paired with one of the better of the non-Lord Ancient exclusives. In my opinion, I would never banner hunt for any non-Lord Ancient exclusives, kind of full stop. The only exceptions probably I'd make, depending on the account, would be Ardia, then I'd say Carnelian, and then with the way the meta is developing now, the next 2, and I wouldn't do any after that, would be Dasami, Crazy Cleansing, and then it would be Alistair. But as it stands, I would really only ever summon on these banners for the Lords, but we have a triple S Lord here. There's a lot to discuss. I'm going to very briefly, and I mean very casually, very briefly go over both these heroes' kits, but I'm mostly just going to talk you through my thinking because I'm insanely on the fence when it comes to this banner. I'm not BSing you. I think I know where I'm going to end up, but I still haven't decided 100% if I'm summoning. So let's see, as I explain it all to you, if I convince myself one way or another. And then at the end, of course, I will give general thoughts on if you should summon. Guys, this is a should you summon video. Let's get into it.
Fastidious.
Fastidious.
All right, here we are back on my website, fastidious.gg. When you go to the tier list, if you guys did not know this, you can type in a hero, then put a comma, and then put another hero or a comma and many more heroes, right? And you can only look at specific heroes. So right now I want to show you the ratings for Torodor and Pelagios. We shall do exactly that. I'm not going to go column by column. You can check out the website if you would like. I suggest you do that, quite frankly. I also suggest you subscribe to the channel. I'm busting my butt every day, putting out content for you guys, streaming as much as I can. I'm not begging here, but I am saying we are 250 subscribers away from 20,000. Let me go home in a week to my family in New York. I'm leaving from Utah to New York for Thanksgiving. Let me tell my friends and family over Thanksgiving that I have 20,000 subscribers. They still might be slightly ashamed that I'm a full-time YouTuber with only 20,000 subscribers, but it sounds better than 19,740 or wherever I'm at right now. So please consider subscribing to the channel and maybe hit all notifications on the notification bell while you're there. Let's focus on the key aspects in the game. Torodor is a superstar. He's really great overall. It mostly comes down to how good his Lord skill is. And then with endgame content, because he's the Lord of a faction that's dealing all physical damage, his defense break is huge. Because as they make content harder, they just make the defense higher. He's cutting the defense against bosses permanently by 20%. When we go over the kit very quickly, I will cover that. But in both guild bosses, he is phenomenal. We have the best fighters in the game are all nightmare units. They benefit from his huge attack speed buff. In Guild Boss 2 especially, that defense break he provides is essential to making his units that he lords over even stronger. But, with new additions like Kagiri, Twyla, we've had the rerun of Lust, Arrogance has always been an OG, Valeria. It's a long list of these superstar Nightmare fighters. Torodor is the perfect lord for him. And I'll tell you right now, as I'm sure OP and broken and stupid the Ancient exclusive Nightmare Lord will be, and I'll tell you, part of me is thinking he's going to get dual faction, like a Nightmare Lord and then maybe a normal member of Chaotic, the way Ingrid got Lord of Watchguard, but then a normal member of Arbiter. To me, that would make sense, but maybe, I don't know. Maybe I'm just projecting or speculating, who knows? That being said, his Lord skill, even when the new Ancient Nightmare Lord comes, is going to be pretty evergreen. It makes his units have a 30% chance on all their basic attacks to do an extra attack. And in this faction, this fighter faction where you want them hitting all the time, that's enormous, and it makes them faster. It's really as simple as that. It's really good. I think it's evergreen. I don't think Torodor is going out of style when the new guy comes in. That's not to say Torodor will be better, but he might drop from the number 5 ranked Legendary Lord on my list. I believe he was number 3 on Slate's. Maybe he'll drop to number 6 for me, right? Maybe number 7. He's not going lower than that. He's not leaving the meta. He's not going to stop dominating the game anytime soon. He's great in all the gear raids, really just as a Lord. Gear raid 2 is where he is best. He doesn't get an S+ because he's not needed. You can do all this stuff with Wrath, but he's really nice. Gear raid 3, if you're running like Hot Scent and Arrogance for great anti-air stuff, having a Torodor makes it easy mode. Same thing for Gear raid 1. Nightmare is not meta, but it does work, and it is so much easier with Torodor than Wrath. Both the Guild Bosses, I told you, he is phenomenal. He's in all the top Nightmare teams for Guild Boss 2, have a Torodor Lord. Wrath is just dead weight. I have phenomenal Nightmare units on my squad, right? I have an A4 Arrogance, I have an A1 Lust, and I have an A3 Twyla. I do not run a Nightmare Lord. I run Twyla without a Lord, and I use the other two with Wrath for Apocalypse 1, just because Wrath is a waste of space if you want to have a nice run in Semra Apocalypse 2 for Guild Boss 2. Torodor, on the other hand, is a G. He's got the debuffing, he's got the best Lord skill, and he functions as your tank. Moving on, I said I won't cover Gear 5. Nightmares are so good there. Shout out to Volca. Shout out to Valeria. Baron is very good. And then Torodor can tank and lord over all of them. Really good. Obviously, he's amazing for AMR. Lots of melee units there. Void Rift, he's phenomenal, especially in the new stuff too, like the epilogue stages. Very good there. Campaign, all this stuff makes perfect sense. The only other shout outs I'll give, he's still on some of the most meta defenses in all of Guild Wars. So he's phenomenal there. He's got a lot of PvP viability. Single target, he's just off meta, but he's like the second meta team if you're not running something crazy with Valderon. Phenomenal. Oh, I should say third meta. Obviously, there's the crazy, maybe even fourth, because you could run Ingrid by herself. After the crazy Valderon, Praetus, Ingrid, the 3 best heroes in the game, besides I would say Eloin, the 3 best lords in the game, Torodor is going to be that next best team. Totally functional for AoE, definitely off meta, and then can be good for progression and anti-air if you have Hot Sit. Otherwise, Bubkiss, that's why he gets the B. But you can see, quite the hero. Pelagios, the main place is a shout out. Extremely underrated in Gear Raid 1. Extremely underrated. He really does do very solid AoE magic DPS. It works. I know he's a marksman, so it throws people off, but it totally works. He's not in a good faction for this. You ideally want esotericists or cultists. After that, probably Northerners and Nightmare units. He's a Piercer and an Arbiter, but it still works. For Guild Boss 2, if you have Praetus, he's totally functional here. That's where that A+ comes from. I'm actually going to knock him down to an A, though, because it's so contingent to Praetus. I'm actually going to knock him back up to an A+, because Elysia is coming to the game tomorrow with this banner. Gear 3, he totally works. You might wonder why he deals magic damage. It's because he deals a lot of true damage, and he's ignoring everything, so he can really take out a bunch of waves. The crowd control is nice as well. Gear 4, he totally works, but he is not a meta option, but he can do a lot of DPS with that ultimate. If we move along, the key places, Void Rift, he is great. Campaign, he is what he is. He's a little too expensive. Everything else is fine here. The key things I want to key in on, he was briefly in a crazy meta for Arena. That's fallen off. He's still really good. I keep him at S. Single target, you're not going to use him unless you need some support for your Praetus. Torrent, he is on all the top teams because of that true damage. Forget about the magic damage. His true damage and then also the radiant erosion he places is super strong. And finally, Guild Wars, he's on some of the more punishing defenses that you're going to see. So he's phenomenal there. Those are the general ratings. Very quickly, just so we can ground ourselves, I'm going to try to spend no more than a minute on all these guys. We've got Torodor here. Every single one of his attacks is placing defense reduction, a minus 20% defense break on the target. So it's on the target. So if there's only one target like the boss, it's going to stay up the whole time. It gives penetration essentially to all your physical and piercing damage units, not just the nightmare units, all of those guys, everything but magic damage. This is super good. If we go to the Lord skill, he gets everybody going really fast, just like Wrath. But the key thing is basic attacks for all the faction team members, him included, will have a 30% chance of landing an extra hit. A lot of the units in that faction, their ults just like power up their basic attacks. So this is happening all the time. They're just doing 30% more hits over the duration of the fight. That is crazy. The basic is significant just because it's a way to deal damage and place the defense reduction. Over here, a little bit of damage. The passive, you've got some stunning. It is what it is. And then finally, this over here, he gets his little restore, the save from death. It's nice. It can help you in certain things. It's definitely pesky in Guild Wars and stuff. But overall, it's just coming down to how crazy the Lord skill is. And nowadays, that defense break. This guy is pretty crazy. I'll say as a tank, you really need to max skills. But once he's max skills, the stuns are consistent. He's got a lot of things going on. He can go really fast. He really can self-sustain. He's a really good guy, but the DPS, I wish they didn't design him as a DPS at all. Just leave it all to tankiness and crowd control. That being said, he's still a triple S unit. Pelagios, you can see he does these tides where he does 200% true damage. As the fight goes on, these happen more and more and more. You can see that here. He can also get some radiant erosion going. I'm going to make myself big again. Aside from that, it's just a good AoE kit. Big AoE magic damage here. This is his basic range. During his ultimate, it becomes 3x5. That's about as big as we're going to see in this game. Only him and then Beelzebub, Bubba, who's coming, have that I can think of off the top of my head. Maybe there's a couple, if you run like an Araka as a Lord or a Yover as a Lord, a Lunaria, Eliza, maybe that gets boosted, some of the piercers. But then again, he'll get boosted as well. My point is it's a very big, long range. You can see here he does some solid AoE and he starts putting out Radiant Erosion. This is a damage over time effect, true damage based off of the target's defense. Then he gets some very unique crowd control. He gets this tidal vortex, sucking everyone in the middle for a nice long while, 5 seconds. It's pretty darn good. Then finally, he's got this chance to do his ultimate again, right? When there's 5 or more enemies, there's a chance of it being cast repeatedly. It's pretty crazy. If it's 10 enemies, it's then doubled to 60% chance of that happening. These things scale up with skill ups. If you're thinking Pelagios, you might be thinking Awakenings. I'll just show you really quickly. Each tide he releases restores rage. So the tides he does over here from the talent, this is really strong. It's so bad. I almost lost my mind there. It's so bad in Guild Wars because it's just more ult cycling. It's more RNG from those vortexes during his ultimate. It's really annoying. Attack over there. Here you can see he can hit more targets. This is really for your AoE kind of PvE stuff, but it is really good. Furious Torrent, Gear Aid 1. And then finally, the A5. The basic attacks also have a chance now to do this crowd control effect. That is when he is like the ultimate Guild Wars menace. The guy's really good. He's not ultimate top tier. He's just an S, still a really good rating. The prize of this is Torodor. It is also worth mentioning Elysia is being added to the Ancient Summoning pool with this. She is the new Lord of the Arbiters, and she is an epic, so you'll have a pretty decent chance to get her. Definitely a lot better than Praetus. I believe there are 12 epic lords now. She makes number 12, so it's not like anything's guaranteed, but at least you'll have a shot. Maybe that makes this a little bit more appealing. I know for me, it does make the banner more appealing. Torodor is so much better than Cratch. And that's just kind of how I want to finish this video, and then I'll give what my decision is and what I think you guys should do. Like early on, you really do not need him, in my opinion. Sure, he could help, but he's kind of more of an end of the late game and then end game hero. He always was ranked S, and then I started ranking him at S+ on my tier list, and I think a lot of other people agreed with that until we started getting harder and harder content. And then until they started just pushing out more and more OP Nightmare Fighter units who he is made for. He has grown and emerged and matured in a crazy way as the game has progressed and developed and they've added new content. It's kind of nutty. So I find him really necessary because I find it really hard to use Wrath on an account like mine. It's really an end game consideration. So if you are worried most about min-maxing and progressing and you're not in that end game yet, you haven't maxed your gear dungeons, you haven't maxed all your gear aids, you aren't singularly focused on like what's the next crazy thing to come and then maybe Guild Wars and stuff like that. That's kind of what the end game is. I'm there now, and that's really what it is. You're just looking ahead. How can I be ready when Apocalypse 3 comes, or when there's Gear Dungeon 3, Gear Raid 6, whenever that comes? If you're not there yet, I don't think you need him. He's going to help you so much. And yeah, maybe you need him, but it's not to the level of Ingrid and Praetus. And I'm going to stand by that. If you don't have Ingrid and Praetus and you're not like super endgame, I think you just hold out for them. I know it's tough to hear. I will say if you're fairly early on, you can totally just summon on this, because you shouldn't be waiting too long between ancient banners, because you might, if you don't even have all your epic lords yet, you're not at the point where you should be picking and choosing. But the vast majority of players, if you don't have him, I think it comes down to how deep in the game you are, and also how badly you want Ingrid and Praetus, because those are the top two by a mile. You could argue Torodor is 3, 4, or 5. I don't think nowadays you can place him outside of the top 5. So that's all up to you. I think I've answered the question. I know I haven't been as specific as I've been in last one. So if you need follow-ups, let me know in the comments. Moment of truth. Am I going to do it? I think I will. I do think I will. I'm 172 summons into my pity, and the new ancient pity is at 185. So I'm 13 away, and I'm sitting on a fat old wad, baby. You don't believe me? Let me show you. I have got, how many have I got? Let's go to currency over here. I got 132 ancients. I can get another 10 from Codex tomorrow. I just need to actually farm Codex. I haven't done that yet this week. I think I will pull to my pity, because I'm thinking I only have 4 lords. I've had the worst luck ever, right? I've pulled 9 lords ever. 5 of them were King Hearts. 2 of them were Twin Fiend. I got 1 Leia, and I got 1 Morgan. That's it for me. For how good and developed my account is, for the 15,000 plus summons I've done, it's kind of crazy. I'm going to take another shot. If it's A5 Hearts, it is what it is. Maybe I'll get lucky and hit Torodor, or who knows? Maybe I'll get my first Ancient exclusive and it won't be Elder or Demi. Was that a crazy jinx? Will I have to cut this out of this video and it will be, I will rue saying those words? Perhaps. But I think I'm going to take a shot at it. You can see I'm 13 away from the pity, so I should hit in between 13 and 23 summons. And then I'll probably rip, like, depending on what it is, 30 to 50 more. We'll see. I think I can still be really well prepared for things to come. The Ancient Nightmare Lord, there's no way they're going to do him in like 2 weeks, right? They're not going to do him 2 weeks after a different Legendary Nightmare Lord in Torodor. So that's where I'm at. That's my decision. If you want to see those pulls, I will do those pulls at around 2 p.m. Mountain Time. That's 4 p.m. Eastern Time, which is 10 p.m. Central European Time tomorrow. And that will be on Twitch. Twitch.tv/Fastidious_GG. Thank you guys so much for watching. I have been Fastidious. Remember, if you have any more questions or you need any follow-ups, let me know in the comments. Please subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bells, share it with your mother, and I'll see you real soon. Bye.
Fastidious.